Hello, I'm Ellen Vince, coming today from Wheaton, Illinois, in the USA. Welcome to Impact, a podcast about how we can each bring about real change in the world and getting practical in making that happen.
And hello, I'm Clive Johnson, coming today from Sheringham, Norfolk, in the UK. A special welcome if you're listening for the first time, and a big thank you to our new subscribers. Each week, we look at one aspect of how we can connect our hearts to offer healing for others with our collective intention, prayers, and meditation, and go behind the headlines of a critical happening in our world that needs our attention right now.
This week, we're more tuning in with something many of us may know only a little about, but we've heard a lot about this one, and see where we might hone in with our prayers and intentions. And as we record, it's September 24th, 2025.
This week, as the grim second anniversary of hostages being taken from Israel by Hamas rapidly approaches, and with international condemnation of the current offensive in Gaza and Israel's resolve to drive out Hamas out of Gaza City intensifying, not to mention several countries, including UK, Canada, and Australia, recognizing Palestine as a state. The horrific humanitarian consequences are just mounting in that whole region, as we know. And so we thought it's time to take stock of what is happening now. Without going into great detail, much of which will be familiar to you from the news sources that you listen to, we aim to get fairly quickly to our usual attempt to see where we might hone in with our intentions and prayers. In particular, in what may seem like a hopeless situation, and one in which further casualties seem almost certain, we ask ourselves, how can we pray or hold intention for a tragedy that seems to have no end in sight? We'll come to this question more quickly than normal, as we suggest areas that have come to us where we might offer intention. But first, a quick reminder of what the situation is as of at the time of our recording.
So, over the past 14 days, Israel has launched an intensified offensive against Hamas in Gaza City, causing escalating violence and severe humanitarian suffering for Gaza's residents. The period has witnessed continuous bombardment, major ground assaults, and mass forced displacement. In this time, the Israeli military has launched over 150 air and artillery strikes against Gaza City within recent days, followed by ground troops. High-rise buildings believed to be used as Hamas surveillance posts have been toppled, while vital infrastructure for civilians has been destroyed. And honestly, I didn't think there were any high-rises left after what had already happened.
No.
Israel says it has seized approximately 75% of the territory, but Hamas remains entrenched in two main strongholds, Gaza City and the central camps. Israel has issued mass evacuation orders to those still in the north of the territory, threatening unprecedented force in Gaza City, and opened new routes for fleeing civilians. However, many Palestinians believe they have nowhere to go, while some are exhausted at the prospect of leaving their city for what for some has been multiple times, or due to infirmity or other reasons they're unable to do so. Hamas leadership has reportedly resurfaced after earlier strikes, and the IDF continues operations aimed at eradicating Hamas's military and governmental capacity.
The humanitarian impact in Gaza is now dire. Palestinian casualties have risen sharply, with Gaza's health ministry reporting that over 65,000 have been killed and more than 165,000 injured since Hamas's abduction of hostages on October 7, 2023, and the brutal response from Israel that followed. With several hundred deaths and thousands of injuries occurring in the past 2 weeks alone. Over 2 million Gazans are believed to be facing famine in the northern Covenant, with widespread malnutrition among children, pregnant women, and the elderly. 90% of Gaza's population has been displaced, as many have been forced multiple times into overcrowded, under-resourced, so-called humanitarian zones in the south, while daily bombardments continue on residential buildings, tents, and schools, sheltering internally displaced persons. Aid lines, hospitals, and other humanitarian facilities have been frequently hit, and some have had to shut down completely. New aid distribution sites established in recent months have become the location of mass casualty events. Nearly 3,000 aid-seeking civilians have been killed near these so-called militarized supply sites. Meanwhile, the few remaining hospitals in the territory are overwhelmed. Disrupted communications limit access for ambulances and emergency services, and there is a near total collapse of the health system. The UN and major NGOs have repeatedly called for an immediate ceasefire, but several UN Security Council resolutions demanding this have been consistently vetoed by Israel's principal ally, the United States. Citing official statements and military conduct as evidence, the United Nations Independent International Commission of Inquiry has described explicit intent by Israeli authorities of committing acts of genocide in Gaza, stating that 4 out of 5 acts defined by the Genocide Convention have been carried out since the October 7th atrocity. These are named as killing members of a group, inflicting serious bodily or psychological harm, deliberately inflicting conditions calculated to destroy the group in whole or in part, such as through siege or famine, and imposing measures to prevent births. Israel has categorically rejected UN findings of genocidal intent, calling them biased and distorted.
While condemning Israel, many nations are at pains to also make clear their condemnation of Hamas for its abduction of 251 hostages. As of now, 148 hostages have been returned alive to Israel, and the bodies of 58 hostages have also been repatriated. There are currently around 48 hostages still being held in Gaza, with at least 25 of them believed to be dead. Rumors that the remaining hostages may be used as a human shield should Israel continue its bombardment have brought widespread condemnation and raised fears among some family members of those who continue to be held that an escalation in the bombing of Gaza will endanger rather than help free their loved ones. U.S. President Trump has meanwhile indicated that he believes all surviving hostages must be released before any peace may come to the region. As of the time of this recording, the Israeli government says that it is firmly committed to its ongoing offensive in Gaza City, while ceasefire efforts appear to have stalled following Israel's attack targeting Hamas negotiators in Qatar earlier this month. In short, the current situation seems very bleak.
It seems that both sides are determined to see this through to the bitter end, doesn't it, really?
And the babies suffer.
Yes, exactly. So, given such an apparently hopeless situation, where might we hone in with our intention and prayers? This was the question we raised earlier. Having trust that they may have real and immediate impact. So, what can we actually confidently pray or hold intention for in the current situation? So this, as always, is the point you may wish to bookmark to come back to. We'll put a bookmark in the show notes as well. But just taking a moment to allow yourself to become really focused, really connected with your ground of being, your inner self, letting go of other distractions. And we'll mention, as always, a number of areas that came to us for holding intention in fairly rapid succession. But again, you may wish to pause to give time to each of these in turn. We will that all those remaining in Gaza City and the northern province of Gaza will be held in every moment in gentle, serene light.
We will that the hearts and minds of the Israeli government, those who have influence upon it, and its military commanders will be moved to allow safe and massive distribution of aid for all citizens who are trapped in Gaza.
We ask that those who are grieving the loss of loved ones, including those who have fought on both sides of the conflict or who have had friends or colleagues who have done so, will be comforted in light.
We will for a melting of hearts where there is division among communities, including to dissolve hate speech and discrimination motivated by ethnic or religious associations.
We pray that wisdom will come to all seeking to rejuvenate peace negotiations following the attack aimed at Hamas leaders in Qatar earlier this month. We ask that all parties will be moved to seek resolution through negotiation rather than through continued military conflict.
We will that those who remain in northern Gaza in order to provide aid and medical assistance will be fully protected, filled with courage, strength, and resolve to perform their vital roles without interference or attack.
We ask that the hearts and minds of Hamas leaders who have the power to release all of the remaining Israeli hostages, including the repatriation of any who have perished in captivity, will be moved to recognize the potential to end Israel's escalating attacks should they be ready to do so.
We ask that the highest good of all civilians on both sides of the conflict between Israel and Hamas will be sought in all international attempts to negotiate a lasting peace between the warring sides.
And this week, as attacks intensify, famine and massive casualties escalate, and the peace prospects appear to be fading ahead of the second anniversary of hostages being abducted into Gaza and the bitter war that followed, we suggest holding as our main intention, we will that countless miracles will happen to enable the survival and well-being of both the hostages captured by Hamas who remain in captivity and all in Gaza who now fear for their lives. Please join us in holding this.
That about wraps it up for this episode. Remember, you can connect with us in the Facebook group and for live intention holding in Clive's daily Insight Timer offerings, and with me in the Labyrinth Activist Network's Zoom calls. Details of how to hook up with these are in our show notes. Look out, too, for our next special topic episode, which we'll be releasing in the next few days. Thank you for listening and for sharing with us and holding intentions. We look forward to connecting again next time. And in the meantime,
thank you, go well, stay safe.
And remember, we're more powerful together.
Impact is presented by Ellen Bintz and Clive Johnson and produced by Impact Productions. Our theme music is by Chris Collins and our logo artwork is by Auto Classic. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible or your favorite podcast provider. We're a non-commercial podcast dedicated to people of any faith tradition or none who yearn for healing in our troubled world. Please pass on the word so others may join us in making an impact. Thank you for listening.